Greetings, everyone. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful day today. I wanted to send out a quick note of encouragement about remembering your miracles. I know that a lot of times we experience highs and lows in life, and God allows us to experience certain things, I believe, to challenge us to remember the miracles and remember how He's brought us out of things in the past or how He's blessed us, and not to allow us to focus on our circumstances or make our circumstances bigger than Christ. I'm reminded as I read today in Matthew chapter 14, verses 21 and 22, how Jesus had just performed a miracle, but then immediately after the miracle, he sent his disciples into a storm. And I believe that that storm that he sent them into was for multiple purposes. But those verses read, "Now those who had eaten were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. Immediately, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he sent the multitudes away." Now, what happened was Jesus had just performed one of the greatest miracles in biblical history by taking a little bit of resources and blessing a whole lot of people. And then it was so overflowing of a blessing and a miracle that there were fragments left over that his disciples had to gather in baskets. And then immediately after giving them time to celebrate the miracle, Jesus sent them into a boat before him, and he knew where they were going because he was sending them there ahead of him. But he sent them into a storm. So in that boat, on that sea, they experienced a storm, and they forgot all about the miracle that Jesus had just performed and began to panic because of their circumstances versus focusing on the fact that Jesus sent them before him. He was going to meet them there. He knew where they were going, and he was the one who put them in the boat and told them to go. And we do the same thing today in our lives because we tend to forget that God is in control. He knows what we're doing, and we are his disciples. And when we are his disciples, he sometimes has to challenge our faith to make sure that we can remember that the same God who blessed us is the same God who will keep us in the midst of every storm. And no matter what miracles he performs in our lives, sometimes we have to experience storms in order to remember who he is. So I encourage you today that no matter what you're going through, trust that your situation is not bigger than the Christ who sent you into the storm, because the storm is for a purpose. It may be to strengthen you. It may be to challenge your faith. It may be to build you up. It may be to cause you to remember. And it also may be for others that the multitude that Jesus sent away that were watching you get into that storm, they want to see how you're going to react when you get in that storm. So you got to be faithful and focused on what God is using those storms to do in your life, and not make your storms bigger than the Christ who can deliver you from the storm. Because later in that story, Jesus came walking on the water to go and get them, and he calmed the storm. And he also even called one of the disciples from the boat and told him, "Come to me," because they thought he was a ghost. And they were of not strong faith because they walked on the water for a little bit, and then they fell in the water, and Jesus had to pull them from the water because they didn't believe that they were doing what Jesus had called them to do in terms of them being able to walk on water at his command. So trust God for what your storms can produce, but don't make your storms bigger than him. Love you. Have a great day, and be encouraged.